Welcome to Ed Fluential Sports, where passion meets precision. As I'm your host, Ed, dive deep into the plays, players, and stories shaping the game. And here is my 2026 NBA postseason preview. The way I'm doing it this year. Last year, I did the ceiling and floors for each team. I did that on Full Court Entertainment Podcast this year, so I'm going to change it up. And I'm going to talk about the biggest strength and weakness of each team in the postseason. Then at the end, I'll talk about who I think is going to the finals. So I'm gonna start with the Eastern Conference teams. I'm gonna work from the top down. I'm gonna start with the Pistons. I think their biggest strength is that these guys who were here last year, Cade, Dern, Asar, they all had a playoff run, not a playoff run, but they played in a series last year. So you're just expecting natural growth for going into your second playoffs with these three, with those being your top three. So I think that's their biggest strength. Their biggest weakness is shooting. Their shooting hasn't been great. Been great defensively. They laid their hat there, but can they shoot? Can they outshoot a team such as the Celtics or the Knicks, who might have a few guys who can get hot? And so I think shooting is going to be their biggest weakness. Moving to the Celtics, their biggest strength is the Celtics. There's a lot of strength. I think having multiple playoff runs already, having great chemistry, and you just brought great chemistry for sure. Because you bringing back Tatum, team already a second seed, so I don't really like this team is gonna go deep. I just think their biggest weakness could be, did Tatum come back too fast? Like aside from that, it's really no other weakness. It's like, did Tatum come back too fast? Time will tell throughout these playoffs, but he's looked fine to me. The next biggest strength, Jalen Brunson. Jalen Brunson is a playoff riser. He's proved it. He's going to multiple conference finals in his career. First time as a second option. Then he just did it recently as a first option, and obviously ran into the Pacers, which seemed to be the Knicks and his kryptonite. But he's still performing, still playing amazing. So their biggest strength is having Jalen Brunson. Their biggest weakness is that you don't know what you're going to get out of the others. You know Jalen Brunson's going to step up. You know he's going to be great. But when it comes to OG, you know he's going to give you a good defense, but his offense going to be consistent. Cat, is he going to be aggressive? Mikhail, we know he's going to play, but is he going to shoot well from three? Like everybody else aside from Brunson is a question mark. They still are a 3 seed. They still do have home court advantage. But that's what I think it comes down to with them. The Cavaliers, their biggest strength is that you got two guys who can control the paint, especially on defense. Allen, Mobley, like it's gonna be hard for teams to score in the paint, especially in the series that they're going into versus the Raptors. And I think this probably gonna be the best defensive series because the Raptors got some defenders too. But sticking to Cleveland, I just think no matter who they match up with, especially if they advance, it's like obviously you have to drive to the paint, but they're gonna slow that down a lot. Like they're going force opponents into a lot of bad shots. Now their biggest weakness is you do have playoff Harden, who's good for the first couple of games, but once it gets down to that elimination game, the most important game in a series, Harden disappears. So it's still gonna be the same case now. You know, you got Mitchell, you got Mobley, so you don't even gotta be the second option. You can be third because if Mobley go off, then it's like, so what is Harden gonna do if they need him to be that second option? Moving on to the Raptors, their biggest strength is their defense. Like I said, the Raptors Cavs playing first round. That's going to be a really good defensive series. Scotty Barnes, DPOY candidate. He won't win it, but he's definitely second behind Wemby at this point in the DPOY race. Ingram, he can give you solid defense. So I really like what the Jakob Poeltl, he's all right. Colin Murray Boyles, he's been a really good rookie, having a good impact, having an underrated rookie season. A lot of people aren't talking about him, so I think he's going to be a big factor. He might not be a big factor, but he's going to be a semi-factor at least. I think their biggest weakness could be guard play. Obviously, Emmanuel quickly went down with an injury on Sunday. I don't know how bad it is. I know it's hamstring tightness, so hamstring tightness is better than a sprain because so be back for the playoffs. But if you don't have, let's just say he does miss the first couple of games, you got limited guard play. So I do, especially going into a series versus Cleveland where you got Harden, D. Mitch. It's like you're gonna need good guard playing that series. For the Atlanta Hawks, I think their biggest strength is having for their biggest strength is their coaching. Actually, Quinn Snyder's a really good coach. I like him. I like what he's been able to do this season. He's had good years in the past, so he's a guy that's had playoff experience before. So Quinn Snyder, I think having him is great for them. Their biggest weakness is that they aren't really experienced because it's gonna be Jalen Johnson first time in the playoffs. Yeah, Quinn Snyder, he was with Utah too. Utah been with Atlanta these last few years. So he's shown he can get teams in the playoffs, get them to high seeds. So I do have Quinn Snyder is my coach of the year personally. But yeah, this team, your first option is an experience in Jalen Johnson. He hasn't been. They were in the play-in last year, I think, but yeah, it's just not enough. So I think going to their first playoffs, your first option is unproven. Like throughout the regular season, he's been good these last couple of years. But I'm saying towards the playoff series goes, it's like you're relying on a guy who doesn't have any playoff experience, which maybe it won't matter. Maybe your great coaching can overcome that. But I do think the Knicks can limit Jalen Johnson in that series. But he is great. I do like Jalen Johnson. So yeah. Now moving into the play-in teams in the East, the 76ers, their biggest strength is Tyrese Maxey. He can explode. He's giving you 28 points a night. He's really been able to keep this team afloat. He's doing a great job. Their biggest weakness is Joel Embiid. He's out with an injury. I'm pretty sure he's out for that game on either Tuesday or Wednesday, whenever they play. So that's just super unlucky. Obviously, we know the history of Embiid. How he always, yeah, they play Wednesday. Embiid, he always has injuries. Just sucks being Embiid. So Orlando, their biggest strength is Paolo. We've seen him step up in the playoffs numerous times. So in a one-game scenario where he just need one win to get in and play Boston, I think Paolo can deliver that. Now their biggest weakness is that they lose important games. Like it's not even they're not actually not, but that's too. I don't know what's actually Jamal Mosley. I was a fan of him a few years ago, but now based off how this season has looked, it's been a lot of games where it's like Orlando should be able to win. It's just like dropping a game to the Celtics where they're resting your starters, and all you have to do is win, and you get the sixth seed. Like that's a really embarrassing loss. So, and it's not the sixth seed, you would have got home court in that 76ers game, but the 76ers get home court. So it's like you could lose to the Sixers without Embiid, and that wouldn't be a good look. Like the Magic had no reason losing that game to Boston. So unfortunately, Jamal Mosley, he's the weakness. I think he's gone after this season, unless they somehow unless they beat the Sixers and upset the Celtics. But he's probably done this year. The Charlotte Hornets, their biggest strength is their shooting. LaMelo, Khan, Bridges, like they can all shoot. They can all shoot threes. And LaMelo, no, Khan, Knippel, and LaMelo are top two in total 3 pointers made. So yeah, they can shoot that ball. They can shoot lights out. Their weakness, they don't have any experience either. Especially if they go into the playoffs. Like LaMelo been in the postseason before in the play-in, but we ain't seen this in the playoff series. It's like they not like the people try to compare them to the Pacers. I think it's a false equivalency because the Pacers were a top five team in the East last year. They got hot January 1st, but they were still doing good before that. They weren't doing as good, but they got hot January 1st. Their defense played significantly better in that second half of the season. Then they continued that. So it's like the Hornets, they're nice, they're fun to watch, but I don't think they're what the Pacers were last year, what the Hawks were a few years ago in 2021, because both those teams were top five in the East. The Hornets are in the play-in, and it's not even a guarantee that they get out. Then the last team, the Miami Heat, the biggest strength is always having Eric Spoelstra, who's won multiple championships, who's gotten this team out to play-in and got them to the finals twice. Got them out to play-in multiple times and got them to the finals twice this decade. So having Eric Spoelstra is always going to be a strength for this team. Weakness, you don't really got a reliable first option. Like Bam has been great this season. He's averaging 20, but I don't think he can be a first option. Like all these guys, you got Bam, Powell, Hero, like Tommy. All these guys are great, but none of them give me like, yeah, he can be a first option and actually lead the team to do something. Like if Bam was a second option, like obviously seeing what they were with Jimmy. It's like, yeah, they're more likely to go on a run with that. It's like now you don't have that Jimmy Butler anymore. You got Wiggins, who like he's good, but he's not Jimmy Butler level. So yeah, that's the biggest weakness for them. And out of these Eastern Conference teams, I honestly think, excuse me, I think the Heat, I think that's a guarantee that they're out in the play-in. I think the Magic have to win. If the Magic lose, I'd be shocked. I think Jamal Mosley, he got to go crazy coaching them. So I do think with Embiid being out, that limits the 76ers and their chances of making it. If they did, it would have to be Maxey averaging like 30 in those, putting up 30, 40 points in both games, but I just don't see it happening. And so I do think the Magic and Hornets get those last two spots. Because I think the Hornets, how electric they are, they just need to win 2 games to get in. I think they're very capable of doing that. Like I think they have. Then to get home court versus the Heat, so that crowd is going to be rocking. Then if they take on the 76ers, I think they can handle them. Get into the playoffs. I got Orlando and the Hornets finishing at 7-8. But I do think the best defensive series in the East is going to be Cleveland and Toronto. It's going to be a great series. It's going to be fun to watch. And I do think Toronto has the possibility of upsetting Cleveland. That would be the biggest shock to me. I know the Knicks, Hawks have their history, but I just think the Knicks clearly outmatched the Hawks here. Like I did when they faced in 2021, the Hawks winning didn't surprise me. I did have the Hawks going to the conference finals that year, ironically, but I had them against the Nets, not against the Bucks. So yeah, I'm not really like the Hawks. I like them, but I don't know if they can. I don't think they can replicate that 2021 season. Then Boston, Pistons, they still the top 2 teams. I got the Celtics coming out the East. I just think they're the most complete team. They got the most playoff experience. You got 2 top 10 players in the league when both fully healthy. So it's like even Tatum at 80%. It's like this team is already looking like they can go deep. They're going to have home court basically until the conference finals. And that's assuming that the Pistons get that far, because if they don't, then they could have home court for the entire playoffs until the finals of OKC. Because if OKC and the Spurs, they got 60 plus wins, but if they face Denver in the finals, then Boston will get home court. So I think Boston goes all the way in the Eastern Conference. Yeah, I do got the Pistons Celtics Eastern Conference Finals. But yeah, I think Toronto is going to be the one that shocks people. I think that's going to be the biggest quote unquote upset in the East, because I don't see them lower seeded teams doing nothing. Like out of the 7 through 10, I don't see any other play-in teams doing nothing. Like the Magic can make the Celtics series competitive. They can compete with. They can't make a Celtics. Like they know how to stay competitive. They just can't close the game. So Orlando can make it competitive, but they will still lose in like 5. Then the Hornets, like they're nice, but I don't see it with the Hornets. Like I don't get the whole hype behind them upsetting the Pistons. Like the Pistons weren't just here last year, but yeah. Now moving on to the Western Conference, talk about the strengths and weaknesses of these teams. I'm gonna start with OKC. Their biggest strength is that they're a first seed for the 3rd straight year. So they're showing you regular season dominance, getting to the 2nd round, then the finals last year. So it's like it's so clear that it's obvious that they're gonna have another great run. It's like you don't see anybody in the play-in upsetting them. Like you would be genuinely shocked if somebody in the play-in beat them. Their biggest weakness is J-Dub, not because J-Dub is bad, but because he's been injured so consistently throughout the season. So can he stay healthy for this playoff run like he was last year? So if he can stay healthy, they have a pretty good chance of winning, especially with him as the first option. It's the second option, not first. For the Spurs, their biggest strength is you can't guard Wemby. Like it's damn near impossible to guard Wemby. You can limit him, sure, or you're gonna have to take his other teammates out the equation, because Wemby, no matter who you match up with him, he can still put on a show. So I think their biggest weakness comes down to who's the second option. You got Castle and De'Aaron Fox, but it's like we've seen Fox in the playoffs. We haven't seen Castle yet, but Castle's giving you the great defense. Fox gives you the solid offense. It's like, which one do you value more, especially going into a series? Does it depend on who you play? Do they both step up offensively? Does De'Aaron Fox step up defensively? Like you don't have a reliable second, I feel like, or not reliable, but the second option is unclear. More so, I say their second option is unclear. For the Nuggets, their biggest strength is the guy averaging a triple-double back-to-back seasons. Nikola Jokic, he makes everybody on that team better, and they're currently the hottest team in the league. So I think Actually, their biggest strength is being the hottest team in the league, winning 12 straight games, going into the playoffs. You don't see a lot of teams doing that. They had the longest active winning streak. The second longest is the Pistons, and the Pistons and Lakers winning three straight. But the Nuggets have the longest active winning streak, carrying that into the playoffs. Like that's really great momentum to have. I think their biggest weakness is can the role players step up? When Jokic was out, they played really well. Then when he came back, they didn't play as well. But down the stretch in these last 12 games, they looked a lot better with him on the court. So it finally started to click. So can they continue playing this well? Cam Johnson, Valanciunas, Tim Hardaway. And I'm going to expand on that tomorrow on my podcast, Sports Fanatic Forum, episode 27, if I'm not mistaken. I think, yeah, tomorrow I'm going to expand on that, talking about the Nuggets and this 12-game winning streak. So can they get those guys to step up? Because you know what Murray going to do. You know what Jokic's going to do. You know what Aaron Gordon going to do as long as he's healthy. So what comes after them, what's following, are they going to step up too? Next, we got my Lakers. Our biggest strength is having first option LeBron. Not because I want Luka Reeves out, but we've seen what LeBron can do as a first option, and he can at least keep, like we've seen the Nuggets series in the conference finals. Even though he got swept, those games were close, and this Rockets team isn't what the Nuggets were. So LeBron as a first option, he's been great, and he'll be able to keep these games close and get everybody involved. Our biggest weakness is the injuries that we have because our third best player is now our first option because Reeves and Luka have been playing better this season, but they're both injured for the first round. So that is our biggest weakness currently. But if we can get out the first round and get them back, that'd be great. And if that is the case, then our biggest weakness would shift because we don't have much bench production. And can we get that? Because we've been bottom three in bench scoring the last 3 years. We've still been a top team, still had home court in the playoffs, but like that's not going to last long if our starters doing all the work because then they're going to be playing 40-plus minutes. Now the Rockets, I think their biggest strength is Şengün has shown you that he can play against anyone because the way he performed versus the Warriors last year showed me that, oh yeah, Şengün, he's like that because he's going up against Draymond, who's one of the best defenders of all time. No matter how you look at him, you got to acknowledge him being a really great defensively. So going up against Draymond, going against that Warriors system, they went to 7 games. They was down 3-1. And Şengün was amazing, and he was the best player there. So Şengün being there and being able to do his thing, I think that's their biggest strength, even with Kevin Durant being on the team. And I think their biggest weakness is that they don't have a point guard. You're forcing a man and Reed Shepherd to play point guard when Reed Shepherd is a 2, a man is a 3. Like they shouldn't be forced to do that role. Like it's nothing, and they're still having successful seasons. So it's like it's no hate towards them, but a Fred VanVleet, obviously he's injured, but a Dennis Schroeder or a Chris Paul or a Westbrook, somebody I feel like they could have picked up, that would have been super valuable. Now to have a point guard who's a playmaker who can be your main ball handler, because it seems like it's going to be Şengün or KD. Because man, he's great defensively, he's improving offensively, but I feel like you want to maximize his scoring along with his defense. Like it's like you're forcing him to maximize his playmaking, which I don't think it's worked out, which is why they don't have home court this year. The Timberwolves, their biggest strength is having depth. They got a lot of depth on that team. You got like Kyle Anderson, Ayo DeSumo, Anthony Edwards, Nas Reed, Rudy, Jaden Daniels. Like that team is super deep, and there's a few guys I probably didn't even name. But with those guys being that deep, like we've seen them be competitive in games without Anthony Edwards. So when Anthony Edwards goes to the bench for 5 minutes, they can keep it close. And like they're not gonna win without Anthony Edwards in the playoff setting. But when he goes, but if he needs to take a breather, take a few minutes, get Ayo DeSumo in there, they'll be able to keep it close. That way, when Ant comes back in the game, it's not some blowout, and then they have a chance to win it. So that's their biggest strength. I think their biggest weakness is that their defense has fallen off. It's not as good as it was last year. I do think they failed. It wasn't a significant fall, but their defense just hasn't been as good as it was last year, which maybe you can attribute to Anthony Edwards being out for a few games because he did play more last season, if I'm not mistaken. Because I think he's 1 game off missing a requirement for the All NBA teams. I'm going to check that real quick because he played 61 games this year. I'm pretty sure he played he played 79 last year. So him missing 18 additional games this season, that could be a product of their defense dropping off. So yeah. The Suns, I think now we're moving to the play-in teams. I think the Suns' biggest strength is that they have experience. You got Devin Booker, Dylan Brooks, who've had multiple playoff runs. Draymond Green was just there last year. So it's like you got these two shooting guards, and you got small forward and Dylan Brooks. And it's like they all bring that valuable experience and give you different things. Like they're all around that 2, 3 spot. And Booker, he can play the one, but they all give you so much, uh, give you so much in different roles that it's like, yeah, you can really sprint. Like, yeah, they can really compete. Like, I do think they can compete with the Spurs, assuming that they beat Portland in their play-in matchup. And then their biggest weakness, I would say, they don't compared to the other teams, they don't have a crazy center. Like, I do wish Kaman would have played more, but I don't think it's not bad that he isn't. But I think when you got like when you look at Hardenstein or yeah, because Chet at the fourth sometimes we look like Hardenstein, Wimby, Jokic, Şengün, Rudy. As you notice, I didn't say Aiden because why would I? When you look at teams like that, when it's like can the Suns? I'm forgetting who the Suns center is. I'm forgetting his name. Mark Williams, which I think it's Mark Williams. I think Mark Williams is healthy, but then my point being that their center doesn't match up with the other team's top centers. So I think he's healthy. I know he didn't play the last game, but yeah, I know he was injured. So like even if it's Mark Williams or Kaman, whoever it is, they don't match up with those teams' top centers. So I do think that could be a weakness for them with him just getting outplayed. He won't get bullied in the paint, but he could definitely get outplayed. For Portland, their biggest strength is you got a championship point guard on your team with Drew Holiday, who's giving you good defense, can pass the ball. Who's had playoff runs. So having Drew Holiday is great, that veteran leadership. Biggest weakness is that another team that's just simply inexperienced. Aside from Drew Holiday, it's like Scoot, Demi, Klingon. Like none of these guys got postseason experience. And when I say postseason, I mean play-in. Like they ain't even been in the play-in yet. So this their first time. So going into a game versus Suns, it's like I'm pretty confident the Suns is gonna win that. Like it might be a good game. I don't think it's gonna be a bad game, but I definitely think the Suns will take it and secure that 7th seed. The Clippers, their biggest strength is that Kawhi is healthy. Well, everybody is healthy right now. Kawhi, DG, Ben Mathurin coming off the bench, so everybody's healthy. So when the Clippers is healthy, they can compete with anybody. I feel like they can keep any series competitive. But yeah, the Clippers, they're healthy now, and I think their biggest weakness is the Clippers' biggest weakness is that they have what I don't know why I just can't. I gotta come up with one off the top. Oh, Darius Garland. Yeah, even though Darius Garland is healthy, he's also a weakness because if he do get out play in, can he step up come playoff time? Because we've seen him disappear, seen him get injured. So it's like he hasn't had any good play. Like he's had a good play in game a few years ago with the Cavs, but it's like when it comes to the actual playoffs with the series, it's like Garland hasn't done nothing that actually impresses me. And I got a Darius Garland Cavs jersey, so it's like I like Garland, but he don't show me anything that impresses me when it comes down to it. When it comes down to the playoffs. So yeah, for the Warriors, their biggest strength is that they finally have Steph back. Um, they somehow last year they still in the play-in, finally got Steph back. So having him is going to be great for them. He's looked solid since he's came back. But I do think their weakness, and it's multiple weaknesses for them. But I think when you look at all the top teams in the West, the OKC and the Spurs, they lost their last. OKC lost their last two. They already had the first seed, and the Spurs lost their last game, already had second. But Denver, LA, and then the teams below them, they all won their last game or last couple of games. The Warriors ended the season on a 3-game losing streak, so you can't go into the playoffs having momentum like. Well, not even, that's not moment. You don't have any momentum going into the playoffs. So it's like you got Steph back, which is great, and obviously Jimmy's still down. But Jimmy he's been on all season with the ACL, so we already know that. The problem is you don't have any momentum going into the playoffs, into the play-in, and you just lost to the Clippers, who's one spot ahead of you. And it's like the win wouldn't have mattered, but it's like that was still an important game, especially for the Clippers, because they could have potentially moved up uh, to a to the eighth seed. So it's like the Warriors, if they were smart, you would have played Steph those last 2 minutes, hoping that because I don't know when the Portland game finished. I don't know if the Portland and Clippers game finished at the same time, but you would hope that you can play Portland instead of the Clippers due to the inexperience, because the Clippers have had their number this season, and they also had the experience. If Portland has their number, it's like cool, but they not as experienced as the Suns or the Clippers are. So I just think ending the season on a 3-game losing streak, that's not good going into the postseason. But I think the Suns, out of the play-in teams, the most likely to upset somebody. I do think if they win and face the Spurs, I would take the Spurs, but I think it goes 7 games. Like, I don't think, but if the Suns won it, I wouldn't be surprised, and I don't think anybody should be shocked. For I'm really short about the Lakers series. I already talked about that. The Timberwolves and Nuggets. That's gonna be really interesting seeing this again. Maybe this goes 7-2. I hope it goes 7 again. But if it doesn't, I wouldn't be surprised. I do think I would take Minnesota. Minnesota also had both teams are different this year, so it's really hard to pick. I probably would take Minnesota though, because Anthony Edwards has shown that he's a playoff riser. Jokic is doing his thing too, but I think the Timberwolves guys is more likely to step up than Denver. But like I said, Denver, I'm gonna go more in depth about tomorrow on my podcast at 1 p.m. Eastern, talking about them. But yeah, I just think it's gonna be close. Though. I wouldn't be surprised if Nuggets won, and I do think the Spurs are capable of getting to the conference finals if they can get past the Suns, assuming that they win that first play-in game. Then I'm pretty confident they can get to the conference finals again. If they'll be taking on Denver or Minnesota, I think the Spurs can beat both of them and get to the conference finals. But I do think I do have OKC and the Spurs in the conference finals. So I got both the first seed and second seed in the conference finals for both conferences, and I got OKC and Boston in the finals. I think no OKC and Boston in the finals. On hmm, sorry for the pause. I was just thinking, who do I have winning in that series? Well, I'm gonna go with Boston. I think Boston gets the job done this year. If OKC repeats, I wouldn't be surprised. But I do. Boston was able to compete even in the regular season, which the West and East don't match up as often as conference games. But I will go with the Celtics. I do think they get the job done. They won a second ring, and I do think Tatum gets Finals MVP. So Boston will have two rings in this Tatum Brown era, and both of them will have one Finals MVP. I do think that's the end result. I would take the Celtics in 6 games over OKC, but OKC will still establish themselves as one of the top teams this decade, being the being the first seed 3 straight years in a row, getting 2 back-to-back finals. It would establish them even more if they could win it. But I do think Boston could pretend. I do think Boston can match that and win the series. So I am taking Boston to win it all this year. Leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, comment y'all thoughts, comment y'all strengths and weaknesses, and share for others to see. But yeah, we on the road to 1,000 subs.